Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Advocates, the PBS Fight of the Week. Tonight's debate is coming to you from Boston's historic Faneuil Hall.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Moderator Evan Submergin has just called tonight's meeting to order.
Good evening and welcome to The Advocates. Our debate tonight is a provocative one that focuses on a major question of policy in the field of higher education. Specifically, our question is this: would the nation be better off if fewer people went to college? Advocate Colette Manuel says yes.
The myth that colleges are a guarantee of personal fulfillment or financial success has disillusioned students and has degraded the institutions. To argue that society ought to provide high school students with alternatives that are meaningful to them, I have with me tonight Professor Fritz Machlup of New York University and Professor Paul Kurtz, editor of the Humanist magazine.
Advocate John Burgess says no.
Thomas Jefferson believed that a broad-based educational opportunity was the veritable seedbed of the survival of democracy. The proponents of tonight's proposition reject that principle. Dr. Frida Rebelsky of Boston University and Dr. Kenneth Tollett, professor of higher education at Howard University, support it. I'm pleased to be their advocate and join them in opposing this radical departure from American educational tradition.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome two new advocates to tonight's program. Miss Manuel is an attorney and has served as consultant on educational policy for Massachusetts. Mr. Burgess is a lawyer from Vermont and an author and lecturer. We'll be back to them for their cases in a moment, but first a word of background on tonight's question. The United States leads the world in the percentage of its youth who go on to college. Almost two-thirds of all students who graduate from high school enroll in college. The majority of those enter standard four-year programs of an academic rather than a technical nature. But as the percentage and number of students entering college has increased, so has debate over the real value of the conventional liberal arts program that most of them pursue during college. And this leads to our question and debate tonight. Would the nation be better off if fewer people went to college? Tonight we'll examine the purpose and relevance of what is called liberal education. By liberal education, we mean the normal four-year college course leading to the Bachelor of Arts degree. And that includes the BA offered by Harvard and UCLA on one hand and by a lot of colleges less well known on the other. At its base, tonight's debate is a debate over two divergent views on what the educational needs of America are in 1974 and beyond. And now to the cases. Miss Manuel, will you begin, please?
Americans have made a myth out of the notion that a college have a four-year liberal arts education. We're told that college is a rewarding experience, yet 60 or 70% of the people who enter college drop out without finishing. Those people end up in Vermont chewing granola. What are they doing? What did they gain? Others are calling for changes in what and how they're being taught. What they're going there and what they're being presented with is not relevant. A degree, we're told, is going to give you a better job and higher income. Yet we know that people are not going to get a better job or higher income. We're turning out 300,000 teachers for 19,000 jobs. Are these people going to look back on college as a rewarding experience, or are they going to be disillusioned and unhappy when they discover that 70% of the population is earning over $15,000 without a college education? We ought to recognize that there are differences in interests and needs among people, and that our educational system must reflect those differences. People should have a choice of vocational education, two-year community colleges, or on-the-job training. That is the only way that college and an education can be meaningful. This is what Mark Twain very accurately described when he said that I never let my schooling interfere with my education. My first witness is Professor Fritz Machlup.
Professor, welcome to The Advocates.
Professor Machlup, does a four-year liberal arts institution and the degree which it offers guarantee that the person who has that degree is going to be a better person or a more successful person or a better educated person?
It certainly does not. Absolutely not.
Could you tell us why not?
Before I tell you, I must first make a few distinctions, because when you say college, four-year college, we must realize that there are really more types. There is the traditional, maybe more classical type of a liberal arts college. Secondly, there is a watered-down version of that college. And thirdly, there is a more vocational kind of training. Now let me say something about each. The first one, the traditional type, is intended to develop a taste for higher learning. It's also trying to prepare people for graduate work and for the learned professions. It is a kind of thing, training the mind and developing the taste for good literature and for the arts and for sciences and so on. It is not really to everybody's tastes. It is for snobs like myself. I love that. But it is certainly not for everybody to work 70 hours a week on such esoteric things. Now, since there are so many people who don't like it, they have a watered-down version of that. And that watered-down version is really good for nothing at all. Thirdly, there is something which is quite good. It's more vocationally minded. You are career-minded and so on. But you know, it's wasteful, because you learn these things that you need for a job much better by training on the job.
Well, doesn't our society say that people that have a college degree are better than people who do not?
Yeah, many people say so, but they are wrong. They shouldn't say so. No one is better off because he went to college. I really don't understand it, why they say it. Do you think perhaps you are morally better? Look what kind of people come out of college, how high their morals are. Let me refer to the Nazis. The most brutal of the Nazis had beautiful education. They loved the arts, they loved the literature, they loved music, they knew Wagner by heart, but they killed hundreds of thousands of people.
Well, then what would your answer be to the fact that some people suggest that college makes better leaders?
A college cannot make a leader. A leader is born. This is a quality of a personality. You can, of course, give a future leader a better education, and I'd much rather have a leader who is broadly educated than some who is not educated. But the college does not make a leader.
What is wrong, Professor, with pressuring people to go to college immediately after high school?
A great deal is wrong with them. If a reluctant person goes to college, he develops a distaste for all learning. He also reduces the opportunities for those who want to go there, who really want to study, and you develop a kind of rebellious attitude against things intellectual, against the institution of the college, and eventually against all social institutions.
All right, that's very interesting. Let's hear now from Mr. Burgess, who has some questions for you, Professor.
Sir, I've been told that you have written that the late string quartets by Beethoven are not relevant to 95% of the American adults, and if as many as 50% of the people were exposed to this glorious music, they would call for the destruction of our chamber music societies. Did you write that, sir?
I did.
Do you believe it?
Indeed I do.
Now, sir, do you believe there is some point chronologically when we can detect whether we fall among the select 5 or the unselect 95? Chronologically in age, does there come a moment when the light over your head says, you are the 5, but you are the 95?
No, you leave it to the taste of the people. Freedom of choice is the answer.
I've also been told that you once wrote, most people can learn what they will ever learn in school in 8 years. And if they are kept for 10, 12, 14, or 16 years, they will merely learn it more slowly.
That's correct.
Now, that is what you said.
That's what I said, and I believe in it strongly.
Do you believe at the end of that first 8-year period that the light will shine and say, you are the 5, But you are the 95.
No, if he thinks that he's interested in more learning, he can go and get it. There should be complete access to everybody, but you shouldn't have any pressure on the people.
How would you select, Doctor, who would be in the 5 and who would be in the 95?
They select themselves, sir.
And how would they be encouraged to make this selection?
By telling them the truth, by telling them what the college means, what the kind of things they will be exposed to, and that it will not, and telling them not the untruths, namely that they will make more money or that they will be getting better jobs and things like that.
Were you one of the 5% who you feel could profit from a liberal arts 4-year education, Doctor?
I think I have enjoyed it. I have enjoyed every minute of my studies, and not with any view that it will make me a better man or a better money maker.
You teach, don't you, Doctor?
I teach, and I learn all the time.
And how many of your students, in your experience, fall into the 95% and how many into the 5%?
Well, I would say it depends whether I teach undergraduates or graduate students.
Let's talk about undergraduates, if we may.
Right. Now, most of the undergraduates really would have been better off not to have been exposed to my teaching and to that of my colleagues.
Perhaps that says more, Doctor, about their faculties that they are exposed to in college than the faculties that they bring to college. But let me ask you this, Doctor. If a child from a ghetto and a child from a middle-class suburb were to both enter this same 8-year program of yours, would they come in your judgment, in all probability, with a similarly rich background?
Not now, but the point is that you ought to have an early childhood education, and there is a great deal done toward that. We tried here in the United States the Head Start program. Now, this was an excellent thing, despite of many disparaging things that have been said about it. But it is true that not everybody is exposed in the home to the kind of early childhood education that would give equal opportunity to all of us. And we could make up for that by supplying early childhood education to a great many more people, to all who want to.
So your proposal, Doctor, would not work in the society we live in today, but only in a society that was totally reformed.
That I would not say. I would say my proposal does work even today, but it would work much better if people really had the same opportunities, and these opportunities would, of course, include an exposure to better learning, to a better exposure to learning how to learn.
But the child who, because of cultural factors beyond his control, goes into your 8-year program deprived culturally, may come out in the 95 and not in the 5. Isn't that right, Doctor?
He may.
And you see nothing inherently unequal or unfair about that?
No, you can't do anything about that. The point is, first of all, it is not an advantage to go to college. It is a disadvantage. It is a sacrifice.
You feel you come here under a disadvantage because you are an educated man?
Not I, but I think the majority of the people are put at a disadvantage if they are forced to slave for hours and hours a week on things they couldn't care less about. They are completely disinterested. They are bored. These things are irrelevant to their future.
And you feel the ghetto child deprived from childhood should not have an opportunity to join you in the 5%?
It should have an opportunity.
All right, let's go back to Miss Manuel for a question.
Professor, did I hear you say that there was something better about the 5% than the other 95%?
No, nothing is better. That's what I don't think I said that.
All right, is there any connection?
Do you feel, Doctor, that the philosophy that you have exposed to the audience here tonight would be capable of being created by a mind that had been educated for 8 years?
Probably not.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor, for being with us tonight.
Okay. I think Professor Machlup has very clearly put the college liberal arts degree in perspective and what it does. It is not all things to all people.